Welcome back to Elm Elaborates. This is Season 2, Episode 10. We are talking about the weird, the wacky, and the why?
What? No, it's what?
What? Why?
And the what?
Love it. Well, let's get right into it, Cameron. Did you ever have a project that went, well, exactly as planned?
Never. I don't think we've had, or I've had one, in my experience. You try, right? You try, you're hoping for the best. But with these and what we do in particular, where we're taking something that is already existing and then we're switching the change of use into something new, we just don't know what we're going to find out sometimes.
Yeah.
Our design has usually changed as we are doing the build. Our demo has changed. There's something that has changed that has, unbeknownst to us, has triggered something down the road that then might cause something like, hey, let's just move this door real quick. You're right. That makes it flow better. We're going to move this door. And then 2 months later, like, hey, did you check this? Or where's that switch going to go now? Like, dang it. So, there's just a lot of things like that could happen.
Yeah. Cascading domino effects.
Cascading. I love that word.
Yeah.
Cascading
effects.
I love it.
Yeah. There's stuff like that. And then there's stuff you could have you never could have seen it coming.
That's true.
Yeah. There's a whole list of things, whether it's coming from the permit department, the inspection department, neighbors, while you're doing construction, just people, just personalities. There's just, when you get into construction, I always say, you're a therapist, you're a babysitter, and you're a firefighter.
I've heard you say that before.
Yes, because it's definitely construction, right? But there's a lot of people skills because there's a lot at stake, right? There's timelines, there's a lot of money, and people get emotionally involved in the project. So, with all those factors, things can get wacky.
Wacky, yeah. I would say the least, yeah.
And then there's stuff you just never seen coming. I had an example. We were talking before we started filming. This was way back in New York City, probably like 8 years ago.
Is that way back now?
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's kind of far back. Actually, no, that would be 10 years ago.
Dang, there we go.
Yeah.
That's way back in my book.
That was 10 years ago. Getting old. There was a ceiling that we were restoring. Okay. So lathe and plaster, right? So basically wood slats.
Yep.
And the plasters. And the plasters kind of stuck to it.
I've seen a movie before.
Yeah. Yep. So we were restoring this beautiful plaster ceiling, okay? Mind you, this is a 3-story Brooklyn brownstone building.
Okay.
And we needed to do demo on the second level. I think you can see where I'm going with this.
I don't.
No?
Yeah, I don't
so we're on the first level. We're on the first level. We're looking at the ceiling, and there's guys demoing on the second level. So the intense vibration from the demo caused the plaster to slip from the lathes.
Yep.
And the ceiling, while we were standing there, the whole ceiling
just collapsed?
Just let go. Whack, right in front of us. Exploded.
Oh, my goodness.
When we were restoring it.
Yeah.
So all the vibration, it was just so old that the plaster hadn't, it's kind of let go from the lathes. And then as we're standing there, just a huge chunk of it just splat right in front of us.
I mean, no more of a restore.
Nope.
It's more of a new build.
Yeah, we got to go back with new.
Cool.
And that was a client walk. So the client was there.
Oh, no.
Yep, the client was there. We were all there. And, we were just like, that was wacky.
Yeah, that's no good.
Yeah, no, that was not a good experience. But, that's construction.
Yeah. There's so many weird things. I was just thinking, like, as you were telling that story, at a project that we have, right, we had to add power, right? So we had to do it. I think we had to do it. It was a single phase, and we did 3-phase. The engineer did 3-phase. So they had to bring in a new pole, new transformers. Something was wrong with the existing pole, is maybe old or leaning or something like that. So there's a single pole, right, with transformers on it. And we get a hold of our electrical provider. We have really nothing to do with this, right? Like, we bring in the plans, just like, hey, this is what we're doing. We talk to the engineer for the electrical provider, and like, okay, they come up with their own game plan, right? That is it. That's all we are doing in this situation, right? So they come out, and they put up 2 more poles.
Mm-hmm.
They cut down one, right?
Yeah.
So the one that was existing there, but they put up 2 new ones.
Right. And the old one looked terrible.
Old one looked terrible,
Yeah.
right? So now that we got brand new poles, looking beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Unbeknownst to us, then we get a call like a week later. And who's it from? It's not from the electrical provider.
Mm-mm.
It's from the neighbor.
Yes.
Kind of behind the property, catty corner-ish, saying now that the new pole, the 2 new poles have done something to their view to make it really less appealing. Or when I'm just like at the back of the house, I'm like, I don't understand. So like, what do you want me to do about that? Like, I can't. I would love to rectify the situation for you. I'm not the electrical provider, unfortunately. Like, it's like I had nothing to do with this. So it got to the point where they actually brought out the electrical provider. They are still in talks on how to amplify this view, which, each their own. Each their own in that situation.
We're about 6 months into that.
Yeah, it is that. And I was just like, really?
Yeah.
On the back? I mean, I know you didn't buy the lot because of the view.
Yeah.
Because there is no view.
The view is to a parking lot and an old building.
Hey, but to each their own.
Yeah. I guess you just never know what people like to look at.
That's it.
Yeah.
You never know what people like to look at.
Yeah.
That is.
Mm-hmm. Yep. What else can you say?
Oh, God, I love that saying.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I can go on. Right?
Yeah.
Let's see here. Another project that we have to connect our sewer. Right.
Mm-hmm.
We live in a pretty historic area, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we don't really know what's underneath the ground. We have a good idea. It's like, hey, it's dirt. Usually just dirt, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're hoping it's usually just dirt.
Yep.
No, I'm talking about a 3-foot by 2-foot footer that is 2 foot in the ground, right? That we had no idea about.
Yeah, 2 feet below the surface.
Below the sidewalk.
Then there's another 3 feet down with this massive
footer. And it turns out that this, whatever used to be there historically, had this huge marble wall or something.
Some lady said it was like a castle.
I know,
thing.
like a castle or something, but it's just one of those weird things where it's like, even when you do some excavating or you're turning these projects and you just don't know what you're going to run, especially underneath. You're like, dang, yeah, a long time ago we built up and now we ran into that problem. So that was no fun.
Yeah.
I really did not like that. I really did not like that.
Yes. Yeah. I have another one where people's feelings got hurt.
Ooh.
It was a surveyor.
Okay.
And the railroad.
I
So the surveyor pulled records and data back from 1910, I believe.
Yeah, you're really good with dates, man.
Yeah, well, nobody's going to know if I'm just making this up, but I think it was back to 1910, but the railroad existed. So the surveyor came and checked the lot, right? And they used as much information as they possibly could back to like 1910. So they came up with this information, right? Okay, you can put their fence here. Mm-hmm. So I sent that to the planning department, and they said, you're all good to go. Just check with the railroad. So we went and checked with the railroad, and the railroad said, no, that fence is too close to our railroad. Mm-hmm. So I have the railroad person and the surveyor person on the same email chain. Boy, did that email chain, I just watched it happen. They just were emailing one another that they're both incorrect. Yeah. And the surveyor was so adamant that he was correct.
Oh, yeah.
The problem is that his records only went back to 1910. Well, the railroad was there in 1880. Yep. I think it was 1860 something. So the railroad had technically moved. The track has moved, and it's like 50 feet from the center of the track. But the track used to be on the left side. Now it's on the right side. So the fence is like encroaching. So all that to say, eventually we just had to put an end to it because it was like 2 months of this craziness. And we said, hey, is everybody okay if we just move the fence in 10 feet? Would everybody agree that would be a reasonable thing to do and we would be out of the right of way? And eventually we got the thumbs up from everybody. Obviously, we would have loved to put the fence a little bit further out, but it really didn't change much. And it just again, people's feelings and their ego and their pride, and just watching that happen, I was so baffled.
Yeah. The crazier thing was the railroad wanted us to go into some type of agreement with them to put it on what we thought were on our boundary, right?
Right.
And they go, hey, why don't you just we'll like lease back the land to you or something so you can put your fence on it and that lease can go up. And
Yes,
they wanted a lot of money.
That's the question we asked. We said, like, okay, this is the lease now, and then what is it? And they're like, oh yeah, there's like a 10% escalator every year. And I was like, what? That's a lot. Like,
that's our land.
So they ended up like, I think like we ended up looking at the person's title, and it was like real estate agent for the railroad. So like it started to click that they want to enter this agreement so that they could make money personally off the lease that they would then create by doing that.
It was crazy.
I forgot about that. I'm glad you brought.
I was like, oh
because that was a crazy portion of it.
I did not like that.
Yeah, they really want to make that money there. Yeah, that's another one.
That is. All right, what else we got? Wacky, weird. Is that what we're calling it?
Wacky, weird, and why?
And why?
Or what?
Or what?
Yeah.
What happened there?
I have a what? Oh, like a what?
Oh, okay.
Oh,
okay.
So, yeah, back. This was probably 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
We were doing handrails in Los Angeles, California.
Okay.
And they were glass.
Oh gosh.
Glass handrails. I'm sure you've heard this one. So glass handrails, but it's not a single piece of glass. It's what's called laminated glass. So 2 sheets of glass together, and then you have this laminate layer in the middle. The laminate is important because it keeps the 2 pieces of glass structurally together. Mm. So we got some information that, there was 2 ways to install this. There's what's called a shoe at the bottom, and you could set laminate glass in there, and you could either shim. There's these things called the taper lock system, which takes a lot of time to your guys to actually shim these things correctly and get it all square. Or you could just pour concrete into it, and then it's set.
Oh, easy peasy.
Easy peasy. So we went with easy peasy. We went with pouring the concrete in there.
Who wouldn't?
Here's the trick, and follow me if you will. Okay. There's a concrete slab at every balcony.
Yeah.
Okay. Before they poured the slab, we set these things called embeds embedded in the slab. They were these like stretches of 10-foot plate steel that had these squares that were tapped with threads in them. So then once we put the shoe, we could bolt it through. So putting that whole picture together, there's now a poured concrete slab. Okay. These embeds embedded in the concrete. They're threaded. We put the shoe on, we put the bolt in, and then we pour the concrete in, right? So that's permanent.
That's,
Yeah. There's like,
it's there forever.
Yep. So a couple months go by, and we get a phone call. Yeah. And they're like, man, the glass looks weird on the balconies. And we're like, what do you mean the glass looks weird? It looks like the glass is separating from one another. So long story short, the chemicals from the concrete basically broke down the laminate in the glass, making it structurally not sound anymore. And all of it had to be replaced. So track back to about 30 seconds ago when I was talking about how, you put the bolt in, you pour the concrete. Well, now you can't get to the bolt because the concrete's there. Yeah. So you can't chip it out. It would take forever. So basically we had to cut off all the shoe, retap the blocks, redo it all. And it costs about double or almost triple to do exactly what we did the first time. Just this time, not pour the concrete in there.
That's no fun.
Yeah. That was a lot of balconies. I'm not talking about like 1 or 2 balconies. I'm talking about like, I don't know. It was probably like 50 or 60. Yeah. Yeah. It was a ton of them. A ton. Yeah. It was on the face of the building and the whole side.
Oh my.
Yeah. Like, I think it was 16 stories up.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a little bit.
That's a little wacky. That's
Ryan. So what do we do? What do we do when we come across these? I mean, so there's so many things that we cannot plan for, right? We just talked about a whole bunch of ideas of construction that have not gone right. So what do we do here at Elm to at least either try to mitigate that or try to look positive and say, hey, we run into a challenge. How do we direct ourselves usually to get through it?
Yeah. So honestly, like the more people you have involved with the more construction knowledge you have, the more those personal experiences, like that will never... I will never forget that, right? Yeah. Like, and you have your own stories, and John has his own stories, and Dave has his own, Eric, Levi, everybody's got their own stories. So the more people, the more eyes on these things, the quicker we can catch them. Yeah. And that's really one great way. You can't have all the experience in the world, but the more people with the more different, subcontracting background and all that kind of stuff, it just helps out a lot. So I would say that's one way. Having our meetings where we bring up our problems and voice them to everyone around.
Yeah.
Everyone with the construction background and the knowledge. That's another great way to kind of not only address the hurdles before they happen, but after. We're never going to be perfect, but after they've happened, how to get past that again.
Yeah.
I think that's really important. Another really important piece is to have a great design and engineering firm,
true.
behind us, to kind of, to set us up for success, not for failure. When there's details left out, and, they have to, to be fair, architects and engineers have to do a bunch of forward thinking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they have to think, if I was a builder with these tools in my hand, what would I need to know? And then they have to put that on the drawings.
Yeah.
So when you have an architect who doesn't put a lot on the drawings, you're constantly asking them questions, and sometimes, you can't ask them every little question. So you have to assume, okay, this is how this is supposed to go together. But assumptions is what can get you into some serious trouble.
That is very true.
Especially with a lack of like ADA information or whatever, whatever it is.
Lack of information.
Handrails, spacing, this and that. The more information we have to be code compliant, the better, and the faster we can move is definitely a thing. So experience, great subcontractors and architects and engineers and all that kind of stuff. What else would you say that we do?
I'd say, we do a good job of getting the inspectors out there early. Any type of courtesy inspection, especially, just building that relationship with the inspectors, bringing them out on site, having them walk around and kind of see what our project's all about. That's always good. Just helps us catch things early, especially you bring them out and they're like, hey, what are your plans for this? Usually you can get that out of them. So that's nice. And then, part of our budget, contingency.
Yes.
We plan for things because of the type of construction we do. It's like we know we're going to go into this building built in 19 whatever, and there's going to be some mystery to that. How can we plan that? We have a contingency for that.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like we're not building the same house over and over and over.
Correct.
It's not like we built this one house. It's a 1,200 square foot single level. Like no, we're doing something way different. We're taking an existing building and we're reworking it, changing the use, changing a whole bunch. So we need the contingency, especially inspection departments are different everywhere. So so we need to have some money to address the things that they're going to randomly point out and want to see.
Yeah, like even in parking lots, you're like,
some people just have strong opinions about random things. And
very true.
And we are building in their neck of the woods, and they want to see things a certain way. And even though maybe it's not exactly in the code, they can make you extend your beautification process a little bit further there.
That is true. I mean, it's a balancing act, right? It's like, how much pushback do you give on things that, like, is it part of the code, or is that just a nicety that you want to see because we're coming in here and spending some money?
Exactly. Usually they're like, oh, we're so glad you're here and renovating that rundown building. But we want to see $100,000 worth of vegetation outside, and we want to see you fix the entire parking lot. Doesn't matter if it's not in your section or not. We want to see you fix the whole parking lot. And that's when it's like, hey, guy, I'm not going to use any names here. Yeah. Hey, guy, that seems unreasonable.
Show it to me. Yeah. Show it to me in the code real quick.
Yeah, where that. Yeah. But then it's that guy is the same guy that approves your plans. So you can't get too crazy. It's it's a fine balance of saving time and money and not overextending.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it all.
Love it.
Zero stress on our end, right?
Oh,
zero, because everything's just so easy.
It's always like white and black. There's no gray zone.
Yeah, it's too easy.
Yeah, we always operate in the gray.
Someone shows up when they promise. Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So, you got any other wacky, weird, what's?
Wacky, weird, whys. No, I think I'm all wackied out.
Yeah.
Not that I can think of.
Yeah, I have a couple just random,
Spit them off.
Yeah, I like just visually seeing things that going on, like forklifts coming down ramps and just way overloaded, and just watching, the fact that they have no brakes, and just like that. I've seen a Hilti gun. There was two guys that were working, and the foreman told the apprentice to take a break, and the apprentice didn't. He just wanted to keep working, and his gun overheated. That's what the guy told me. I don't know if that's true. Union guys work slow, so that's part of it. Yeah,
overworked.
Yeah, it was a union job, and something went wrong, and the Hilti gun exploded in his hand. That was quite the sight. Yeah,
this is more of a OSHA talk now.
Yeah, no, I mean, what we do is serious, and it is
very dangerous.
Yeah, it's very dangerous, and there's things that actually do happen, and yeah, I mean, there's so many unknowns, right? Like, he used that gun. I heard it. He was using that gun time and time and time and time again, and then just happened the one shot that he did, just happened to just blow up in his hand. Yeah,
crazy.
Yeah, the good thing about that, we were up on.
The good thing about it.
Well, yeah, well, not many good things, but we were up on, I think, the 10th floor, and they had emergency radio, and emergency radioed him, and they got him off that building and into an ambulance the fastest. It was insane.
Dang.
Yeah, it was really great to see that. Yeah, the elevator came. They had this, it was just like a working elevator. It wasn't like a permanent elevator. They had it scammed onto the side of the building. They came flying up, got this guy. It was cool to see that, and I know the guy was doing all right because I talked to the foreman later. Sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's a bunch that I'm forgetting too. Yeah. Sometimes you see things and you're like, what? Why would they think that's good to do? And then you see something the next day, and then the next day.
Yep.
Yeah, like setting. Patios completely out of level.
Oh gosh, that's your typical, your trade.
That's your everyday.
Yeah, that's your everyday. Your trade's gonna do something where they think it's, I don't know, right in their head, or I don't even know how you say it.
Yeah,
there's a variance of error, right?
Yeah.
Even with the glass, right? Like right now we have a situation where a lot of our glass is bowed, or out of square, or. There's a situation, but there's tolerance for things, especially in construction, right? You can't, you would like to be as precise as possible.
Yes.
But unfortunately, it does not happen.
It's not going to happen that
You
way.
got to have a tolerance.
Yeah.
Or they'd be sending everything back,
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what else have you seen, Ryan?
I've seen something that I almost forgot about, but, like when you're building in certain areas, right? There's certain materials you're allowed to use and others that you're not really supposed to.
Yeah.
Combustible, non-combustible, it depends on what you're doing. Like a residential house, you could use combustible materials. Obviously, there's a safe way to do certain things, but it's not as strict because there's not so many people within the building. But when you're doing like apartments and high-rise and stuff, you have to use non-combustible materials, right? Because that'll slow the spread of the fire. So we hired a framing contractor who we used often prior to that. And again, this is back in New York City. And he's like, no, I can do that for whatever. Yeah, no problem.
Easy peasy.
And so we showed up. It wasn't long. He did it so fast. Wasn't long after we signed him up. And he went to Home Depot and picked up a bunch of wood studs, packed them up, brought them inside, and framed a bunch of walls and door openings. And we walked in, and like at first, I don't know, it didn't hit me right away. Like I was like, oh wow, there's a lot of progress.
Yeah.
And I just knew something looked wrong. And then as soon as I got into like the second doorway, I'm like, oh, all of this is wood, and it should definitely be metal stud framed.
Yeah.
I was actually doing a project right across the street where everything was metal stud framed. And I was just like, man, something's different about this job. And then we were like, yeah, dude, we can't use wood inside a high-rise building.
Was it sawdust on the floor? That's interesting. That's interesting.
And like it actually smells a lot different. Like when you cut metal studs, it's a very different smell and everything. So, that was just something funny that he was like, are you sure? Like, can we, like, they're non-structural. It's like, yeah, but you still got to use, you still got to use non-combustible.
Yeah.
That was another good one that I literally just remembered. So, yeah, love it. All right. Well, that was season 2, episode 10, the weird, the wacky, the why. Thanks for listening. We will be doing another podcast next week, so stay tuned for that.
Woo!